Okay, so I won't say much about me. I'm Luis Soares, the head of engineering of xgeeks. Just want to say a couple words about xgeeks. So we believe that when looking around, we believe that only 1% of all companies are truly digitalized, and we kind of have this mission and this vision where we want to help companies achieving their potential and help them into this formation. And that's why we are very proud of partnering with this meetup groups and create this type of events, so we can bring more awareness about these topics related with cloud native, and that's why we are here. And without further ado, I just want to thank the panel, and I would like for each of you to do a quick intro about yourself. So maybe I'll start with you, Sérgio. Sérgio, you are a DevOps engineer at Revolut, but I think you can explain. No, you need to turn it on.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay, cool. I don't like to say that I'm a DevOps engineer because we're going to talk about it. I'm a software engineer.
Nice.
I'm an engineer, okay, specialized in the IT industry. So I've been, a software engineer for maybe 25 years. So yeah, I've been here for quite a while now. And I've been in small companies, medium-sized companies. Now I'm at Revolut. Yes, I'm in a DevOps platform team, which we'll probably talk about as well. Still with a lot of challenges, and that's what's kept me up in the day and like what I do. So thank you. I'm going to pass the ball now.
Yeah, André, our platform specialist at xgeeks. Go ahead.
Yeah. Hi everyone. So I'm André. I'm a platform engineering manager at xgeeks. I've been involved with several internal developer platforms at several enterprise companies, and as a consequence, I'm leading platform engineering efforts and expertise at xgeeks. I'm also a software engineer for more than a decade. I'm very passionate about this topic, and I have some controversial views maybe to share with you. I think this will be interesting an interesting talk today.
And now Daniel.
Yeah, so I'm Daniel, as you said. I'm also an engineer, same IT specialized engineer. I started around 25 years ago too, and mainly kind of in the infrastructure space because I was the only one in the company who understood how to turn on a computer. And no, mainly to install like all the software and needed. And so doing infra dev, always in small teams. And even now, I'm currently a developer at AWS Group, which is a consultancy company specialized in serverless application on AWS, where I'm mainly like a developer.
Okay, thank you. I think they deserve a round of applause, right? So, before we start reviving something, I think it's important for us to understand what we are reviving. So I would like to set some common ground, and I would like to ask you guys, what is actually DevOps? So I would like to ask you for a brief explanation about what is DevOps, and how did the approach change the way we look at software development and operations. Since you are playing at home, I will start with you, André.
Very well. Why am I not surprised that he needs an explanation on what DevOps is about? So I'll go through a little bit of history, but not much though. So I don't want to bother you. But I would say that the biggest aha moment was during a Flickr talk around 14 years ago. It's called Velocity 09, I believe, and they showed that Flickr could do 10 deploys a day to production, which was quite innovative, let's say. And a couple of years later, me and most of you have seen it happening. DevOps at an early stage, around 2012, and back then was mostly happening with tech companies, and there were, let's say, two spirits of DevOps, trying to bring developers close to operations. The 3 ways from the Phoenix project that helped create and shape culture, and then continuous integration and continuous development, how we build these pipelines that we start using with more some kind of agile practices. And now, 10 years later, I believe it has become an umbrella or recipe that contain and crafted a lot of other practices. It has continuous integration and delivery at heart, and it tried to accelerate and shift some developer activities to the left. We have SRE, we have chaos engineering, observability, and that was all not written in the let's say in the Phoenix project. So I really believe DevOps became this umbrella with practices, principles that welcomed other practices and try to enable the entire supply chain of the software delivery lifecycle to become faster, more frequent, and with high quality. So that would be my take on what's DevOps.
Thanks. Sérgio, Daniel, do you guys want to add something? It's important that we create a common ground before reviving it.
So for me, when the word DevOps came out and started to appear in be it LinkedIn or other stuff, I didn't really get what it was. Because for me, since I started working, I've always kind of done DevOps. Because being in a small team, we had to do the development, the deployment, all the like metrics, feedback loops, be it from services or from people. I was dispatched directly with our clients. So I had meetings directly with them. So I was doing the marketing, the pre-sales, the post-sales, the how do you say, formations and stuff like that. So suddenly when it came out, I was like, for me, it always has been a thing. Like working development, getting the feedback, fixing the bugs, or seeing that, oh, suddenly we need like 1 more server. So at that time, we still had servers in racks. I don't know if you're all too young to remember that. So you had to actually ask for money, buy a new server, and so on. That's a topic for another day. So for me, it always has been normal as a developer to work closely with operations. So operation wasn't even a word. It was, everything was under the development umbrella. And for me, so DevOps, as I understand it now, is really this part of having development, and the one who pushes the feature to the code, he's also in charge of getting the feedback to see how well it performs or how well it doesn't perform, and fix it if needed. And so yeah, that's basically, for me, that's like the main core is having this full loop and understanding the product and getting a sense of ownership of that product. So that what you build, you have to be proud of what you build. You build it not for some manager, you build it actually for you.
Thank you. Sergio, do you want to add something?
Yeah, I would like to compliment. First, André, you're right in one thing, which is that guy said that they were able to do that 10 deployments a day. And actually, I think all of us do that. When we have issues in production, maybe even 20 deployments per hour, it's necessary to make it work. So, but the thing, I think the change is that they are able to do that deployment with quality. And I think this is one key aspect of this. In terms of history, we cannot forget a little bit of how we developed in 25 years ago as well in bigger companies. Yeah, in smaller companies, we tend to do everything. I had that experience as well, but when the company grows, we tend to have, well, more layers and more coordination between teams. And, well, we started with using waterfall approach. And you know what waterfall means. So, by the way, who still uses waterfall for their daily cycles? Don't be afraid, come on. Gantt charts, all of that things, beautiful things. Okay, you remember there was an analysis phase done by key people, then development phase, then the quality guys, then whatever, and then finally we had the operations that will deploy and break all the things. We know all those things. So, and then we created the extreme programming as well, and we put Agile on top of it, and we were fermenting that cycle of more frequent deployments and faster feedback loops. And I think this is also motivated a lot that we tend to do shorter development cycles with less features being delivered at once, and we get that value immediately if it was good or not good. But going back a little bit to the question, and I would like to end up what is DevOps with the definition of Microsoft on this. I really like the definition, which hopefully I'm not mistaken, which is basically DevOps is the union of people, process, and tools in order to continuously deliver value to our customers. I think it's like this. And the order is important in terms of people, the process, and tools. And we'll get to this probably in a second. And the continuous delivery part to our customers. So I think it has the key people there, and I would like to end up with this sentence of what DevOps is.
Nice, thank you, Sergio. I think you can keep the mic because I wanted to ask you something. I think if you guys agree, I think we have some common ground, and I think we can go from here. So you spoke about a lot of beautiful objectives and ideas. So I wanted to ask you, how far are we from that? So what's the current state of DevOps? How do you see it implemented in the industry today?
How far? I think it's like the universe. It's a never-expanding zone, right? We never get there. There's always something that we can do better. I think we are much better from the experience that I see from other companies. I think we are much better than we were before. Nobody raised their hands when, or either because they are shy, when I ask for waterfall approach. So I think that's a big win already. And hopefully you are also be able to develop and see how the product is operating, getting the metrics, adding the logs, seeing actually with the product owner side by side, what is the value that you are producing. So you have more in touch of your product, and you also hopefully have more influence on the decision that the product takes. So for me, we are already taking a huge leap, taking in consideration how we were in, 15 years ago. But we still need a lot of work to do there, mainly because the structure sometimes of the company doesn't allow you to do that. It was created in a way that we still have silos, or we don't, the way that the teams communicate tend to create silos, and there's a famous law called Conway's Law that we can also touch about it. Yeah, I think it's up to all of us as well to try to break the silo. We need to stand up and say that this session is good for that, to try to break a little bit the silo. You can bring things home as well and try to break the silo. But it's really up to us. It's not only the management that needs to break. Sometimes it's from the ground up. And sometimes we also need to break the rules, right? Your boss doesn't say that you cannot speak to the person next to you. So go talk to the person next to you and create those connections.
Nice. So who wants to go next? Daniel? I can also share my mic.
Yeah. I'm allowed to use the official mic. So I think we are really close, and as you said, it's expanding. So the goals for me is a kind of an utopic world that you can never reach. It's like if you look the curve that you divide by 2, like it's the hare and the tortoise that divides by 2 the distance. You can never reach it, but you get close and close and close. And I think, perhaps we'll address that perhaps later, but one point that doesn't allow you to really accept is that at the end, we are all humans and we have our limits. We have 1 head, 2 arms, and only 24 hours in a day. And you cannot fit that work to one person that he does everything. At one point, you need to start to spread the work across people, and every person has a different abilities. So one is but more dev, one is more ops, one is more security, and you need to take that into consideration, and that's where I think you get to start a bottleneck.
Thank you. André, do you want to use the official mic, or you have one?
No, I can do this one. Yeah. It's closer to me. Okay, so I wanted to ask about this. Where are we now? So how far are we from the objective? I'll try not to be an incendiary here, but I'll try to play this role. And so I also wanted you to raise your hand. I wanted to ask you all, like, how many of you are doing DevOps? All right,
you
cool.
You felt for
Wow,
the
you're
training.
doing DevOps. It's a very broad question. All right. So we'll get there. I know it's tricky. Yeah. Okay, fair enough. So I guess I won't be making a lot of friends today. So I'll try. I'll say, and I will say it already. So DevOps does not work. So we do not do DevOps. It's not a role. And let me try to understand, to explain you my understanding of where we are right now. So, and obviously, don't get me wrong, a lot of things have been done, and there are a lot of technical issues that have been solved. We've enabled tech, huge run of innovation, CI/CD. These problems are pretty much settled today, but and DevOps became mainstream actually. But how far are we from the promise of speed delivery, quality of delivery, the dream of super happy customers and that have great experiences? You know, since that Flickr talk that I talked about before, 14 years ago, I mean, the tools have changed 100 times maybe, and yeah, they have evolved. But let's say that the workflow is pretty much unchanged from 14 years ago, pretty much. Maybe you don't agree, but I'm willing to hear your opinion. And from, for instance, the Google State of DevOps says that 88% of all companies reporting to this DevOps report can deploy more than once a week. 14 years later, really, we cannot deploy more than once a week. And it's not because tools are not optimized, right? Like, I can tell you that it's not Jenkins' fault, that's for sure, not Jenkins' fault. And it's also not like we are not DevOpsing enough. So I think it's the experience of doing it, the way it's conceptualized, it's a bit of a bit miserable in a way. So DevOps is falling into the category of a framework. Now we have two teams doing DevOps, like teams do Agile and teams do Scrum. So it fails in the same bucket of practices that had their day in the sunshine and then they faded away pretty much. So it hasn't involved a lot into a conversation about a product-centric model. So the industry made a tremendous amount of experimentation with it, but what came out of it? What's the best practice? What's the standard? What do we really have to do with it? So I think that's where we are right now. So I hope I was not too harsh on DevOps, but that's where I think we are.
Okay. Maybe I would like to understand where do you disagree, Sérgio, with André?
No, I tend to agree that we put DevOps as a role. That's why I initially say, no, I'm not a DevOps engineer. Totally agree on it. We are starting to create a lot of DevOps platforms, which for me actually is yet another silo. It's official name for that silo that we wanted to avoid at the beginning. But I also see that this is always a balance, and we tend to create certain capabilities in order to scale, and the scalability for a company is also important, and that's why we sometimes create the platforms. But we tend to forget a little bit about the people part of it. Maybe my experience says that we are going in a better direction. Definitely, we are too far away. Well, you have the values, so you have the metrics. So I cannot go against your metrics. I don't have any others to report to here. But at least I see the company, the IT, a little bit better than it was. In terms of mindset, more people being open to change, to adapt, to listen, and to cooperate. That part I see different than it was 15 years ago. So when I joined my biggest company, at the beginning of my career, sorry, 20 years ago. So that is the part that I see a little bit to change, and that's why I tend to disagree a little bit on that. So I think there is mentality for people that want to change, not necessarily that they already changed.
I'm not sure if you want to disagree with André as well, Daniel.
Go for it.
Or-
Don't disagree with me.
No? If not, I can ask something to.
I'll try to bring more stats in a bit.
He
as well.
came prepared. He came prepared. Yeah.
Yes.
No. So maybe I'll continue with you, Sergio, because so you see the values, you see how it impacted our industry. I think you kind of agree that we are not 100% there yet. So I would like to ask you a little bit about the challenges that you see, and I would ask you two things. One that I was not counting, but since you spoke about Conway's law, I think it would be interesting for you to explain a little bit, because I'm not sure if everyone knows, and the growth and the types of connections that relate with Conway's law. So can you, based on your experience at the companies that you work for, what type of challenges can you identify, and how do you relate them with the organizational structure of the company?
So, and I think this, thanks for the question, and I think this relates to my early stages of the waterfall approach, where we have the developers, and then, I don't like the word use the developers, the ones that produce the engineering code, or the production code, and the ones that produce the testing code, and the ones that then do the operations. And these were actually siloed teams. So I had a couple of years with this type of experience, and it was a big pain in the ass. Sorry to use this word. So usually what happened was that, so what is Conway's law? And correct me if I'm wrong, but this is my interpretation. So what happens is that the software tends to follow the organization of the communication that teams have. So if team A talks to team B, they generally create something around that ecosystem. But if they don't talk with C and D, well, they don't have any type of connection. But if C and D talks with them, they will generate a lot of things around it. So what happens is that, let's say that the developers talk a lot with each other, they will create frameworks for their own, but they don't talk with the testers. So there is a big discontinuity between these two boundaries. And one of the things that I saw happening in one of the companies that I was, is that we need to break this. And we need to organize our structure in order to break this silo. So what happened is that, okay, forget about the technology part. Let's create multifunctional teams. So teams that have all the capabilities necessary to deliver that particular part of the product. Or even better, let's also organize those teams into domains. And let's put the teams working together in order to solve the business challenge of it. Regardless of the IT, they were starting to have a discussion around those domains. And they started creating the ubiquitous language around it as well. And they started to create patterns around solving their own challenges. And not only that, with the capabilities of building and deploying, they created capabilities in order to have better visibility of what was happening in the product. Okay. I know that this doesn't happen in a lot of places, but I saw this growth happening in a company that is in a structure that is very difficult to change. So if it's if it's possible in a company in which the structure is difficult to change, maybe this is easier to do in a company that it's more lightweight. So in my perspective, I think that's the thing that we need to do, is each of us need to also try to break a little bit of the natural organization that we have. Talk with your buddy, even if it's or not the buddy, the person that's on the other team, and try to create that connection in order for you to create a new network and force that up, because that means that you are going to most likely as well create the practices and the patterns that will help the software evolve in a certain direction.
Okay, that's nice. For you, just because I remembered one thing. So I'm not sure if you are familiar with Dunbar's number, so the number of connections that you can actually.
7, right?
No, it's a little bit more. I think 150. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know. But usually a lot of people correlate the Conway's law with Dunbar's number, and I was just interested in knowing if you ever thought about it, because you have the experience of a big corporation, and you try to say that by improving the lines of communication, you could actually increase the outcome, because, as you said, Conway's law, the quality of a system, or a system itself, will reflect the organization, the organization of the structure that creates the system. And just because you said about increasing the number of connections, I remembered about Dunbar's number that limits that, but
No,
okay.
I don't.
Don't worry.
That
don't
part
worry.
I don't know.
That's fine.
Thanks.
So I can jump to Daniel, because you have a different experience. So the other way around, from what I checked, you always worked in companies with a little bit less employees, right? So a smaller number of employees. So you had the other side of the coin, right? So where communication can probably flow a little bit better, and where everyone does everything. So I would like to ask you, from your experience in the organizations that you worked for, how was it? How challenging it was to implement this type of culture?
Yeah, so when I say small companies, it's like generally in the order that's less than 10 devs working on the same product. And the two companies that I worked like 10 years and 10 years for, the core business was dev. So basically the product, we made a product as devs for clients or for people. So it was a B2C and B2B applications. And when you are that number of people, you generally sit in 1 or 2 rooms. So communication is turning your head to the left or turning your head to the right, and that's it. And there's nobody in between that will say, oh no, you cannot talk to the other guy because I'm your boss and it needs to flow through me, because this guy didn't exist. Like we devs or engineers were those guys too. We were the manager and the devs at the same time. And that's something then I learn now with my current job, where I work more with more bigger enterprises. That suddenly you send a Teams or a Slack message to someone from another team that you never seen, and you say, hey, can I talk with you about that? And then suddenly you have 3 managers on your back. Hey, why did you go directly to him? And that's where I think the challenges are mainly, I think it would be a cultural aspect or a mindset of people that needs to be overcome, and to make them realize that first, if you have only 2 people in a call, that's for 1 hour, that's 2 hours salary to pay. If you have 10 people in a call, it's 10 hours salary to pay. So going directly to the one who needs the feature or the interface with your side of the application means that you can work faster. You get the tech answer and not the commercial answer on, I don't know, JSON formats or whatever is used to communicate. So basically you speak the same language as the other guy, and you don't go through someone like 3 levels up, 5 levels left, and again 3 levels down to get an information which is then distorted when it arrives to you. I think that's where it is, again, us as engineers on a project, be it consultant or not, external or not, is try to convince or to explain to all the people you work with what are the benefits. And I think most, at least the places I worked recently that are more enterprisey, they understand it. But they're just still this old school thinking of the managers or the middle managers that are kind of thinking that they're still useful. So that's kind of my take.
Okay. And for those organizations where you feel that, was there any time that you said, nah, this is not going to work? This company can change?
No, so I was lucky enough that even the big company I worked for, it was a project that they treated kind of a startup. So we were really a small team at the beginning. And when I decided to move away from that and be put on another project was when it started to go bigger. And as soon as you start to get bigger, the how could you call that? The administrative part of it comes into play. And then you start to spend actually more time on your day on calls than actually working. And I was always telling them, I'm like, yeah, I cannot like spend half of the day on a call. I work only half a day. They were thinking of they were trying to convince me that even a call is work. But in my mindset, if I don't code, I don't work.
Okay. André, do you want to create chaos again and comment on this?
Nah, yeah, I'll be okay this time, I think. Yeah, can I create some chaos? Okay, I'll go. I'm the chaos monkey today. So I see challenges. I see some challenges in implementing DevOps, and I've seen them on some organizations. I see challenges on both developers and the infrastructure team, and then a surprise third person persona that maybe will get there. So I see that the cultural friction to get developers to do it. So and why? Because developers want to build and run their applications, and that's fair. And but for sure, they do not want to write and maintain infrastructure. This is not what's supposed to happen, but that happens. And for sure, they spend a lot of time on repeating tasks on stuff that should not be a problem, should be actually streamlined by theory. So there's this gap of theory and real returns, because this leads to a lot of other problems, not failing to follow standards for compliance, or every single team doing things in a different way because they have so much autonomy. But then that becomes impossible to actually maintain in the long run. So imagine 20 teams that do every single thing or CI/CD in a different way, and then you suddenly have to do internationalization or something for all of them, and then the team that is doing it needs to learn how every single team is behaving. So that's a little bit of a nightmare. And then you have a problem on the infrastructure team, because I believe that infrastructure teams right now are a little bit, and this on big companies, are a bit single-threaded. So there's one person responsible for the vision, the engineering problems, the to demand execution, and consequence of this is organizations are in risk of losing developers. Developers are no longer patient. They want automation. They want better customer service. That's what I mean. They need better internal customer service. So. And obviously, it's not enough to tell infra people to be faster, be smarter. It's not fair. They've done that the whole time. So the challenge is that we don't give infra teams product managers. So there's no owner to drive it with a product-driven approach. So and that's fair. The infra leader, the team leader from an infrastructure team is usually a very proficient engineer, cloud architect, you name it, what have you. And they usually do not think in a customer-centric way, and that's okay. So we have to break apart the engineering manager, product management, to build this whole situation. And this brings me to the third person and the third challenge, which is a huge challenge. Go to your CFO and sell them this. Like they are going to see dollar signs, and it's not going to be an easy conversation. So actually, I'm curious to hear more like the next phase of our conversation, because our opinions, hopefully at the end we'll close our conversation and write the perfect pitch for the CFO to buy this, and get it done.
Yeah, you're right. So now that I see that you are seeing the glass half full, maybe I ask the next question to you first. So we accepted some common ground for DevOps. We checked where we are today, some challenges, and you spoke about dollars and and all of that. So I wanted to ask you guys. So what's the real business impact of this that we are trying to implement? And in your case specifically, since you are so negative today, and what is like the business impact for companies that try to adopt DevOps and kind of semi-adopt DevOps?
All right, so I'll go on the business impact, but the impact of this huge gap between theory and returns and where we fall and on these pitfalls of repetitive tasks and huge amount of time until some contribution is done, cognitive load. So, and this is a topic that is very interesting to me because I've been very close with some enterprise clients, and I'll just go and for instance give you just a concrete example of let's imagine a team of 60 engineers, an engineering team, and 10%. This is I'm looking at here because I have some data, and I came prepared with data, and so this comes from the State of DevOps or Platform Engineering. I'm not sure, 100% sure, but I can give you the sources. So 10% of developers' time is spent on repetitive tasks, so not having the right tools for what I need to do, and not having standardized tasks, and repeating things all over again in several teams. And for instance, 15% on onboarding until a contribution is made, and this means the amount of time until you start working, and then your code ends up, some user is going to use it in production. So if we assume a company cost of 90K per engineer, for the engineering team, we have a company cost of around 4.2 millions. So that means that we have a cost to value negative impact of around 1 million of this huge gap between theory and returns. And I'll give you another financial perspective on cost benefit. So the first year you're going to hire an engineer. When you hire it, think about everything that you spend on it. So let's say 15K on recruiting, 50K on onboarding and the repetitive tasks, 20K on taxes, the ones we like the most. And what does this actually mean? That every time you hire an engineer, 50% of their salary is wasted. So that's the impact I wanted to bring to be again a bit incendiary.
Yeah.
All right.
I know. Yeah, you are on the dark side today.
So I'm sure that, and obviously there's some very interesting and positive impacts, and I'm curious to hear more.
Yeah. So that's what I wanted to ask Sérgio and Daniel. So now I think you guys are seeing the brighter side of DevOps. I wanted to ask you, related with business impact, where do you observe that an increase on business efficiency and product quality with this DevOps culture?
So let's start with the quality. I think it comes through the feedback loop. If I develop something, I push it to production, and I can directly see that it's going to be used by 50,000 users a day, or whatever number matters, and you can actually realize that what you've built has an impact on a few people. It gives you kind of a sense of pride, where it makes you, at least personally, makes me feel more happy. And when you're happy, you work better. So I think on the overall, being able to understand what you build, why you build it, and what's the impact, you will get the pride of your product that you build, and you will be able to make it better. See the little tweaks that you could do. Be it moving a button 2 pixels to the left, perhaps, it could be only simple as that. But just having this feeling of you've done something that is meaningful to at least a few people, and the pride you get on that will actually help to build a better product, and see perhaps the flaws that it has, fix them, and that goes again in the development pipeline. Is like, if you're able to do directly see, oh, there's a problem here, you write your bug fix and you deploy directly without having to go through a process of 20 Jira tasks. I think that's like something really satisfying. What was the second question? I answered. Okay. I just went in a run and I forgot the question.
So basically, I was asking about business impact. Your view either on the negative side on not fully implementing what we were trying to implement, and a positive impact that you could have on the quality of the products that you release and the efficiency of the business itself. You can comment on both if you want.
Okay, and when sorry, Andrea, I'm going to pick you on this. When you were talking about it, I thought this was going to turn into a political discussion, because it almost feels like, yeah, it almost feels like, well, let's not invest in education because, well, it only pays off in 20 years from now, or something like that. So and I think this is a little bit like that. So we see, we see the value of this change of culture just because the software industry is still growing. It's growing a lot, and we still have work, and we can search for work, and it's easy for us to search for work. So it means that the software industry has value on top of it. The whole community recognizes it. It's far from perfect, and we'll get into it in a second. But it has value. So yeah, maybe we are wasting a lot of it, and we should optimize that. I was wondering, how was the waste before that? I don't know if you have those values. It would be, yeah, it would be very interesting as well to see that part. That's why I was picking on you on the political discussion as well. At least in terms of satisfaction, I see a lot of people as well happier to work. Also a little bit unhappier as well, because since there is also the negative pressure that, well, since you are now having all of these automations and processes, you can work twice as much. So those 24 hours a day that you were saying, it turns out to be 48 hours a day, so 24 during the day and other 24 during the night. Why not? And but yeah, I see that part, and I think the data in the charts show as well that we are. I don't have the maybe you have the velocity charts, so that we are. The company in general is going in the right direction. It's still slow. It's not the pace that we want, but yes, the deployment frequency is increasing. The lead time the change failure rate is lowering, but yeah, we still are far away from it. But the reports show that we are getting better, but far from it.
Can you explain a little bit, because I'm not sure if everyone understands the type of metrics that you are talking about. Okay. Can you explain a little bit?
These are usually called the DORA metrics. So the DORA metrics was a group that got together to understand what metrics software engineers could take in order to understand the value of the business. And they have 4 metrics. So deployment frequency, change failure rate, mean time to recover, and the other one, which is lead time for change. Lead time for change. I was missing that one. Probably one of the most important ones. Sorry. So these 4 metrics usually are key. Again, we were discussing this a little bit before, because, well, if we look at lead time for change, well, we can easily fix that by creating 10 different Jira tickets and just going for it and whatever. So it's easy as well to change those metrics. So we need to look at those metrics, but also other metrics like, is the company growing or not growing? So connecting that to other metrics. But I think as proxy metrics, for us, is good to see how fast we are deploying, how frequently we are creating errors. If we have those errors, how fast we are recovering. And okay, if we have a new change, how fast we can put that change. Now, one thing that Daniel was saying a little bit is that, are we also measuring things like are we getting smarter? Are we providing better ideas to the market? But maybe I will let Daniel talk a little bit and continue on this discussion, because in terms of metrics, since DevOps is also about doing and measuring, I think it's key for us to explore this part.
Yeah, so it's all the time that before was wasted on running a shell script to deploy, or going to your application 20 times to do testing. That can now be used to actually, that's automated, so you can go into the development. And development is not only like sitting behind VS Code and typing lines. There's a long phase before you have to think of, and that's more, I would say, like in an architect point of view. which is I'm also a bit. So where you have to think like, oh, what tool to use to solve that problem? How gonna solve that? Which kind of database do I use? And this time that you spend thinking about that will actually increase the quality of your product because you choose the right tools for the right job. And that's metrics you haven't committed. You spend perhaps one day in like, should I have like a MySQL database or a Redshift database? And the whole day you spend on testing things to see like which one perform better for a use case. There's no commit, there's no line of code, there's like, nothing has moved. So from a point of view of the project, nothing has changed. Your JR ticket is still in the same state, perhaps 3 comments in it. And those are the kind of metrics that also matters because as a developer or an engineer, to use a better word, thinking about all these problems and how to solve them before actually starting working on them is also important. And that's like metrics that don't really exist nowadays.
I would like to add something else that you ask in terms of negative aspects, and I've been too much positive as well, and I would like to add something.
You want to move to the dark side as well?
Yeah, I'm going to pass a little bit to the dark side, which is one of the movements that we are seeing as well in the DevOps is the creation of the platform teams. And now, okay, DevOps passed from the culture to the practices and the tools, and okay, let's create platform teams that will do that job. And one of the things that I'm seeing over and over again, and also I'm contributing to that, I must say, is that the platform teams tend to help out the engineers in creating capabilities in order to simplify the underlying structures. But if this is not well thought, and this comes to the negative part of it, is that we might make things harder than we realize. What I mean by this is that, let's say that we want to use a cloud provider. They have already created gazillions of documentation how to use that. We have already gazillions of tools in order to interact with that. Tools that have been passed all the tests, have a lot of documentation. That we have AI tools. I always told you that I'm going to put AI on top of this. That can generate code on top of us for that. And now comes platform teams that will create DSL languages, DSLs on top of it, possible their own documentation, and now the engineer comes to the company, he needs to understand that part as well, how to handle it. He will not probably have the good tools for it as well, no AI to generate code for it. And although we try to simplify the work by hiding the details, which sometimes can also difficult the troubleshooting, we're also creating this layer that makes it difficult for the engineers or the product teams to interact with the system. So I think we were first at the point that let's create DevOps teams with all of the capabilities, and then they can create and deploy whatever they want. To a movement now, no, everything is on top of a platform. Let's create a lot of platform teams, and let's create abstractions on top of it. And maybe we need to find again the balance between that. Neither too much, neither too low. So a little bit of negativity.
Okay, thank you. So I think we are a little bit delayed, but I think it's a cool conversation. So I'll have one more question that I was not thinking about. But since you mentioned platform teams, and I think you touched a little bit on the idea of standardization. A little bit. So I wanted to ask something that I just remembered regarding Agile, because we all like to say that we are Agile and that we believe that most of our organizations are super Agile. But if you read the Agile manifest, one of the 4 pillars is actually what we were discussing, I think, while we were having some drinks. It's people over processes. So do you guys think that this idea of platform and standardization can live in the same organization and coexist with this Agile idea? I don't know who wants to answer this. I have. By forcing processes and giving developers only one way to move or to. I'm not saying that I agree, disagree. I'm just saying that somehow that's what. It's part of what the platform team needs to do at a certain point, right? Standardization guaranteeing that that you do this, that you have this type of behavior, that you can predict things, so then you can act, right? So by doing this, aren't we contradicting in a way what we said about not having processes because the process will slow us down, or not? Or maybe I'm imagining things that can be the case.
Let me jump in with a principle that comes from the solid principles.
Go ahead.
That I think that can solve it. Open-close principle.
True.
So if the platform gives a capability, but it's open for extension, that means that the teams that will use it can comply with what the platform is providing, plus that can create their a little bit of flexibility. And I think that might help a little bit on the balance.
That's a cool idea. So you kind of build the baseline for the rest of the guys to extend and have some kind of capacity of deviation from what was previously created. Go ahead, André. Sorry.
Yeah, sure. I actually agree with Sergio. So it doesn't have to comply with Agile. We can evolve.
It was just me
there,
trying to create things as well. So.
But yeah, I agree with Sergio, because that platform is actually to be a product that evolves. A product evolves. You listen to your users, right? And your users are the developers. And developers are going to tell you with feedback what needs to change, what needs to evolve, so what new processes we need to accelerate next. So, you know, it needs to evolve from Agile for sure.
Jonah?
Yeah, so I'm not super familiar with this notion of platforms, but from what I understand here is, if you look at tools, be it like GitHub or other Git providers, they are kind of an external platform for your product, and you have to use them. So now, if this product is like in-house or public, I don't think there's not a big difference there. And I think with the creation of like the world now, with the amount of open source projects that exist that everyone can use in the database system, they're all like kind of platform. You can see MySQL as a platform that you use, but you can also then start to say, oh yeah, but it doesn't have geospatial features. We need to add that. So you can start to talk with them to get it. And internally, it should be the same. It's like, oh, you're lacking this feature. We need to be able to add it. So again, you go back to the DevOps principle, where you start to talk directly with the platform team to say, we are lacking a feature. We can lend you perhaps 2 devs to help you build it.
Thank you, Daniel. So I think we are running a little bit out of time, and we want to give you guys the opportunity to also ask questions. So I'll ask one last question, which is actually if we need to revive this thing or not. So I wanted to ask, maybe I'll start with you, Daniel. So what's the future of DevOps? So if you had a magic wand that you could wing around and recreate all the things, because I think we can agree that there are some things that are still not there. There are some challenges. So if you had to release the version 2 of this, how would you do it?
Well, first, I don't think there's much to change. It's already like, I'm old, so I'm from the software in the what was it, waterfall? So yeah. I started with kind of similar to that. So I think we're already like in a really good state. We have all these tools that really helps us a lot for continuous deployment, as an example, or even like testing. Now we have like security tests, like AI will help a lot in that domain. So in the next 5-10 years, we'll get an increasing amount of tests that we'll be able to add. I think what we need more is perhaps for some, like if you look at the word DevOps, you could either emphasis on dev or you can emphasis on ops. And if you are more on a dev side, or you're like the guy that really brings the idea, being then stuck after a while in the ops part, because once your project gets big, you don't have time for devs anymore. You do only ops. That's probably like having a point where you can actually have a way to transition to let go this project. It's no more yours. You have to let it go and then work on something else. And there's probably still nowadays a lot of QA, human QA that is involved. At least on the project I work, we really rely on human QA. that will do like testing, not automated, so manually. And that's perhaps something that we will need to add into the like Arch Dev Sec Ops QA. I don't know how to word that.
So wants to swing the magic wand next.
You stole from me what I was going to say, which is let's put Arc, DevSecOps, Arc, security, IOps, and money and whatever it is to be done. But yeah, I think just like a culture, we were discussing this in terms of education. Should we give up on education? No. Well, mathematics is still the same as it was 2,000 years ago. 1 + 1 is still 2, and we need to keep push on educating. It's actually part of us. That's why we also have the community to help out spread the word. That's how we also need your help to spread the word. Go into this community and propose talks. A little bit of sponsor on this, and. I think spreading the word helps, and getting to the managers saying that DevOps is more than just tools and practices. Is actually about culture. Doing this repetitive all days, all night. It's important, and I think that's going to be the key. Like I mentioned, I see that we have growth, but we still have a lot of work to do. Just like our education system has a lot of work to do. So let's keep pushing on it. It's up to us as well.
All right.
Last question.
So should I just say there's no future, it's over, burn it?
That's what we expect from you now.
No, of course there's a future. There's always a future, right? There's always a future, I hope so. But yeah, for sure we spent a lot of time building tools and so on, and I mean, I see a future where organizations embrace DevOps as being a toolkit that enables their value stream to achieve something. So this sounds very fancy, I know, and in practice what this means is you need a team responsible for a platform that enables developers, and I'll meet you a little bit in between because it's not going to be siloed. It's going to tackle that a little bit, and because it acts with a product-centric approach. So it listens to the customers, developers, and builds it for them. So picks up these tools from the DevOps that I call the DevOps umbrella, these best practices and principles, and fits it the right tools and principles to the value stream for that specific customer. So you're gonna use, I see DevOps being used as a recipe. I mean, we can call it a recipe. We can have a same recipe and do it in different ways, right? Like Luis can take a francesinha recipe and the same recipe as me and still not do it well. So
thank you, André.
and no one will like it. So some will. So it will fit for someone. And so, yeah. Use this recipe to shape what the business needs, to deliver value efficiently, faster. So in short, make your developer ecosystem as a product, own it as a product, so that you're building actually what matters for the developers. You're enabling them to have more impact. And so obviously from my perspective, there's a lot more that we can talk about that we managed today. We can keep on going, I'm sure. And but I think that's what reviving, rebuilding, rewriting DevOps could look like, or we can just call it a second version of DevOps, DevOps 2.0, which could be equal to DevOps plus a product mindset. That would be the shiny future, I see.
The shiny future, okay. Yeah,
Sure.
Sure.
Okay, I just remember one thing in terms of practical, what we can also do. So we see that we have platform teams, we have those capabilities that we've mentioned, and we talk about preaching and education. One of the things that we put in place in one of the companies that I was, and we forgot this key term here, which is the center of excellence. And actually the center of excellence can have that role and should have that role in doing the necessary propaganda, basically, to shape the company in order for have this mindset. Not tools, not processes, basically going to tackle mindset. You can push for, do you have the right metrics? How you measure those metrics? Are the engineers happy? Do you have the flow? So maybe this can be a push in that direction. This helps more in bigger companies, but can be a tool that you can leverage. Okay.
I really that was really cool. The center of excellence, like I really think that, I mean, to push it forward, like platform, you really need to evangelize it. So that makes a lot of sense. Like some people need to educate people within the company. So and I see it happening in practical terms. Like you actually can start this product as any other companies are. You need values, you need mission, you need to market it within the company, and you can start with a, let's call it a lighthouse team. You have a couple of people that are solving a specific problem, and they do it in repeatedly. So you take these developers, and you actually build the tools for them to be able to repeat and build the platform for them, and they will be the ones to evangelize for the others, because the other ones are gonna see them and say, okay, maybe I want it as well for my, exactly, a little bit of jealousy. So I like that idea of the center of excellence. So it touches a little bit on how you get to have a product, a platform as a product, as I was talking about.
Okay, guys, thank you. So now it's your turn to make some questions and use the special mic. Any questions? Let's go there first.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Alex. So you've talked extensively about culture. I can tell it's a big problem. It's a big trauma in terms of DevOps adoption. But I was wondering, how do you feel about tools? And if the tools in the DevOps space have been fulfilling the promise of speed and with quality at the same time, or you feel like there is still progress to be made?
I think there's always progress to be made with tools, but as I also said at the very beginning, I think tools are pretty much settled in a way. We've solved CI/CD, we've solved reliability, I think, and the tools will for sure evolve. But I think we are at the state that they are quite advanced. That's our opinion.
So so the thing is that what is the challenge that we are having, and let's figure out the tool taking into consideration that challenge. We are now seeing emergency of AI, for instance, and I talk about again AI. How is that going to help us be more efficient in terms of delivery? So the business is already using that in order to help all customers getting answers faster or do whatever. Can we leverage that as well to increase the flow? Can that help us to understand what is the main point that we have in terms of value stream, where we are facing the challenge and how can we optimize it? Can it help us to understand, for instance, how we can reduce cost? So, and I see that is a space where we don't have the right tools yet. So is there a space to grow? Yes, definitely, like in everything. But we first need to understand what is the challenge and then face. For instance, in terms of language, sometimes we are just reinventing the wheel. So maybe we are exactly in the same problem and just figuring out different ways to do it. And then we create new tools around it, new IDEs, new compilers, new whatever to exactly the same problem. So, but in terms of complexity scope, I think, yeah, we have now going to be the 4th generation or 5th generation of IT with this AI, with the intelligence systems that going to partially replace our work as well.
Thank you. Do you want to say something? Oh, okay. So maybe your turn now.
So I have Gustavo Valverde. So I have the title, with the D word. I'm a DevOps. So But this sometimes make it complex in companies, like, because when you're the DevOps, it's like you're supposed to do a bunch of things, everything basically. And sometimes in companies, it's hard to make them understand, that these are like different roles. From time to time, if you have like a bunch of years doing the same DevOps, like the whole cycle, then you get experience across all those stuff. But at the same time, I think that it also harms some companies because they have just one person doing what must be done like by a few persons, So that's a comment, but the question is, how do you think, because for example, Daniel talked about when you're in a team and you have like a person that you can talk and you just have to move your head and you have this conversation, like DevOps happens in that context, in that room. So you don't need the person because that's happening while you're having the conversation maybe sometimes. But when you have like a fully remote team, then you have this DevOps person. So sometimes you create the silos automatically just by having the person. So how do you fight that in a fully remote organization, let's say?
I can answer that because I'm currently in a full remote organization where we are we are like a few devs on one customer, a few devs on the other, and we don't really talk. We have these silos of whose customer you assign, and generally you cannot talk with others because NDAs and stuff like that. So one way that we are doing it now is using the Slack channels of the company is try to ask the question vague enough to not give away too much NDA secrets. No, to give away no NDA secrets, sorry. And but then it's always hard because the other people who is the specialist, let's say, and I will go a little bit into the AWS world here. If I'm working on an AppSync project and I don't know it, I will need an AppSync specialist. I know that someone in the company is. So I'm going to ask the question, but he is working on a customer too, so he doesn't have the time. So that's a really big trouble. And I think that's where you need, I think in these companies, you will need like specialists in some areas. So I was saying before, you are more dev, you are more ops, but then in the dev part, you will always have the specialists. And those specialists need to kind of be like free electrons that are able to jump on any project and not like being assigned to one silo. They could be like coming into a project for like 1 day or half a day to actually just solve the problem at hand where the dev is stuck on and then move on elsewhere. But that's really hard. We were not able to solve that problem, so it's a really hard problem. But that's kind of how I would try to solve it.
Tribes and guilds, right?
Sorry?
The tribes and the guilds. Can I add something?
Yeah, I don't even know if I answered the question.
Yeah. For the first part of the challenge, where us DevOps need to do everything and do it well, I face a little bit that challenge as well. And one tool that we can leverage is, okay, what are the responsibilities of this particular team? Network, security, infrastructure, CI/CD, observability, whatever, okay? And like we were discussing, we have specialties. Basically, we have T-shaped profiles. You might have heard about T-shaped profiles. So we are very good, or we should be very good in doing one thing, but we tend to as well do things in other areas. And actually, that's, in my perspective, a healthy team is that you have people with good T-shaped profiles. So, and you actually cover all of the capabilities, but people know a little bit more about the other things. So if the other person is sick, I can jump in. I won't be as efficient, but I would be able to do it. So in my team is a little bit like that as well. So we have many responsibilities, but we have a little bit like specialists that can do a little bit can be very effective on one thing, less effective on others. Do this, in my perspective. Get those responsibilities, get the people, do a matrix where those people are key, where they have the knowledge. See your gaps and bring this to the top. Maybe you need to split the team, maybe you need to find other people that, or onboard new people that improve the capabilities of the team, because in the end, it's a risk to the company if the team is responsible to do a lot of things, but it cannot do it. So bring this visibility up.
Yeah, sure. One last question. I think pizzas have arrived, so.
I will be fast. Just an addition to you, Sergio. It's working? Okay, my name is Edson. Sergio, it is a good and really effective model. But I am observing two bad things happening in our enterprise world. We are not having co-workers able or requiring or trying to be a multidisciplinary. And there are many reasons for it. For instance, wage, salary, complexity. So it's super hard to create teams like that. And it crossing this bad behavior with the company velocity and market velocity is other problem because, okay, I am producing a good and a dream team, but unfortunately, the time market is super fast. So company, no man, dev, you will focus on developing code, platform engineers, bring and encapsulate the cognitive workload, and let's be fast. So unfortunately, tools, DevOps culture, DevOps, everything works better and well. Unfortunately, the unique key is missing is the individual culture, individual desire to change. So your model is very, very interesting, but unfortunately, the co-workers nowadays, it's not working well. It is what I am observing.
Okay, let me see if I can answer that. So let's say that the person is not willing to learn, fire the manager. If you don't have space for that person to learn, fire the manager. Basically fire the manager. So, and if, yeah, basically that. So, fire the manager. The manager should be there pushing for that person. If it's not doing the proper evaluation, the manager is responsible. Fire the manager. Solves all the problems. It's like the coach. Fire the coach. He didn't score. Forget about it. The coach is the responsible.
So I think the pizza pipeline is still running, so I think we have time for one more question if there's any. Here.
And I'm a manager.
So I have a little question. By the way, my name is Stefan. Can be team specialization a silo or not? Or what could be bring for a team that is specialized in one topic become a silo? So I came in an organization that we already big. We are 350 engineers. So we start to have specialization. So because we are repeating ourselves, that's meaning that some teams starting to do their job, starting to be provide libraries, provide frameworks to the other teams because they don't need. We pop up a new microservice every 2 weeks, something like that. So it will be crazy to reinvent the wheel about how to connect to database, to events, to event queues, all the same way. We have a library for that. So at this point, we already have a platform team. It's basically the team that builds the frameworks and the libs. So also we have a DevOps team or DevOps tool team that is basically the team that was specialized in CI/CD, developer experience, they create that tools. So how, and the question is, they are focused in these aspects of the product that's lower levels. This is a silo? Or if we have a good communication, this specialization is not a silo? So I don't know if you want me to elaborate more on the question.
It makes all sense. I can go on that just a little bit. Like this has been talked about. Like you can look. I really recommend you to look into team topologies, and so you have these teams that are giving value to to the customer, stream-aligned teams, and then you have these enablers, and siloed teams can be enablers, right? Like what are you talking about? And and sure, they need communication with the stream-aligned teams that are giving value to the customer, so you know what you're impacting, what you're involving them, so they can be either faster, do something better, very specific. So answering to your questions, I don't think there's a problem in being siloed. It's normal. You need teams to enable other teams and to be very specialized. It needs this communication with the other teams that you know what you're impacting. So you know that you're specializing on something, you're improving a process, and this is making them faster or making them fail less or find problems faster. So that'll be it. Yeah, that's it, thinking like a product.
You have a question? The real last one.
So thank you so much, guys, for the presentation. I just want to ask you about communication problems. Communication problems. What? Fuck. Awesome. So let's suppose that we have like a release situation that is okay. We have a QA team, we have developers, we have like a web team, a mobile team. We have a lot of things to release our final 2 or 3 products, and we are poorly aligned because we are not able to communicate. Who is the responsible? Or how can we improve? Fire the fucking manager, right?
You have to define it, man.
I know it, but okay, that manager, at least before it's being fired, he can do something like, I don't know, make a newsletter to try to align everybody about what's happening across the teams. Or I don't know, pick a Slack channel and try to align everything through objectives, OKRs, I don't know. Do you have some examples to how to improve that communication in this siloed teams? A lot of silos, so that's the situation.
Just quickly, so I think that case will have to be fixed very much from the root, from how you build a team. So actually, you need to have those teams and very much aligned from the beginning on what are the expected of each one of the member, who's the responsible, how do we communicate. So that actually needs to be defined, all those processes, so you know who does what, who's responsible for that. So I think the main root problem of that, there's no real owner of anything. So we have a lot of siloed teams, and no one wants to take the responsibility to bring things forward and to actually give context to everybody. So that will be the first point, how you could try to solve it at first. To try, someone needs to take the full responsibility for the whole delivery, and who doesn't know the what you're doing, what you're impacting. You have to communicate. You have to try to bring that concept. But that's a very difficult case. So I'll say that has to be fixed from the very ground up.
Okay.
Yeah, some perhaps to give more like kind of real solution that we try to implement too in these kind of scenarios. Sadly, it adds more meetings to your calendar, but the having like every 2 months or once a month, kind of a town hall, where it's not just the top management who explains what's happening, but actually every team has a chance to make a demo of what they're working on. And that used to work really well in the past, to just share like, okay, we are the front-end team, let's look at the tools that we use, the new features that we want to put in place, and so on. Like, and every team has a chance to like showcase what they're working on, which gives them kind of, again, a sense of ownership on that, and be able to make others understand what the challenges they're facing and why they need the other teams. And that creates like the discussion.
Thank you.
Let me ask you a question as well, on top of what my colleagues have asked. Who created that silo?
The company structure, basically.
So managers?
Yeah.
No, wait. Is there any rule that says that you cannot talk with other people?
No.
So it's your fault.
Basically, okay.
No, thing is that what I mean by this is a cultural part.
Okay.
And if you have an issue, stand up, go to that person, remotely or physically, and talk with her. Create your own group. Go grab a beer and discuss the things that you need. Don't wait for the manager to create that space for you. Create the space on your own. If you need to talk with others, talk with others. If you have that need, create the capability to do it. Probably, yes, it will require you to understand who are, but yeah, you maybe get to it, but create that part. So basically, the culture needs to be done by everybody. And that's one of the key parts of the DevOps. Everybody needs to participate. It cannot come from top to bottom.
So you mean if I have like, I want to improve my release process, I go to the QA team, I go to the mobile team, start to ask questions, try to understand, like directly, basically that, grab a beer.
Yeah, pick one guy
Probably
from
is the
each team,
most
let's get
effective
together.
way to do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me buy you a beer and go for it.
Okay, thank you.
Speaking about grabbing beers. So, guys, thank you all. Thanks for Daniel, André, and Sérgio for being here and for sharing your knowledge. Thank you for the sponsors that made this possible and the 3 meetup groups, and a special thank you to you guys for being here. Let's grab some beers.
And thanks to Luis as well, so for hosting.
Thank you, guys.